Am I right in saying that I don't know how much you did it for this album, but usually for every album that you make, you write a bunch of songs, like
Yeah.
a lot of songs.
Yeah.
So what is that's
The
process like? Is it very secluded for you, where you kind of seclude yourself and then just
It
go?
can be a bit, but I like I write a lot, and I on my own. I don't really find it seclusion. I mean, I enjoy it. You know what I mean? I enjoy like being in my spare bedroom and writing tunes.
Right.
With my little cat. It's great. I enjoy it, and I think that that's part of just being a songwriter. You need that time on your own, because you're talking about, you're trying to get to like something quite personal. It's quite self-indulgent, really. Right? So with the guys, but I like throwing it out to. So I usually write, like on this one, pretty much the whole album was written when we started working on it as a band. But then I throw it out so everyone can, Pete can might help on a chorus, and we'll work on a chorus together, making it a bit better, or he might come in with a middle eight, and so we I think at that point we collaborate. But I like to bring in material now. I think we went through some fruitless sessions of just jamming, because you can make great music, but if you haven't got a song, it can run away with you. Right. And I think it's good to have a focal point. I also, on this album, I collaborated with a guy called Chris Seafried, who we wrote a couple of songs, and he helped me on a few other songs as well. And he inspired me a lot, and we got a really close songwriting connection.
In what way did he inspire you?
He's just, I mean, in lots of ways, I relate to him. We have similar music taste, and we have similar ideals and what we want to say. But really, it was a lot to do with words, man. We just really vibed off concepts, and he's got an amazing imagination, and I think that he made me feel like it's cool to be more imaginative, and gave me a bit more confidence in that. And the producer as well, Brandon Friesen, we also vibed a lot, and he really helped with bringing out. Probably that's the main thing that I enjoyed with these sessions, was just being super confident and really taking stuff further than I ever have, really, and really going in depth with the lyrics. Yeah.
In that sense, because you mentioned confidence, was there a moment then where it was waning a little bit?
With the confidence? Well, I think it always is, man. I think it's very hard to keep not just confidence, but keeping your spirit and in doing what we do. I think that's why there's only a few people in the world that do it for a long period of time and keep making songs that people resonate with, because to keep yourself confident without being arrogant, to keep yourself alive and spirited without being brain dead, it's quite a tough thing. So you need people like that to come and bring a fresh perspective, so I think most people in our business would feel like that. Yeah.
As a songwriter, then, especially that I'm sure you use it now, then, but putting that much emotion and bits of your personal life. I mean, this time I think it was a breakup and then finding love again. But what is it like having to go delve through that first, and then to show it to other people as well?
It's quite odd. It's quite an odd thing, but like I said before, the way that I see it is I think that once I've done my bit, it kind of stops. I don't really think that. That's why it's really odd when people try and try and understand oh, so why did you write this song? And you're kind of going, well, it's that relationship, that thing stopped when I wrote it. So I'm in that moment, I'm feeling it. I think that there's some songs that come from stuff that you don't know until after as well. And I think about being open is really important when you're writing. You just got to let it flow, and you've got to say whatever pops out, and then finesse it. Not super stream of consciousness. That's not really my style. But I think, for example, on this album, I think you've got like Weight of the World, which is definitely about letting go, like a lot of the negativity and the bitterness. It's really, to me, it is a relationship song, but it's about a much bigger picture than that. You know, Fraction Days, same thing, you know. It's not really as simple as me saying, well, you know, I broke up with someone and I'm finding love. I think there's a lot of positivity in the album because I fell in love during the record, like properly, hard, you know. And it's like Disney.
Right.
Little birdies, but it's more than that. I think I'll probably only really see it in about a year's time.
Right. But with that in mind then, because I also read that you had a lot of songs and then you started working on them as a band again, and then threw everything away. So
well, no, that's not it.
Okay.
I didn't have any songs.
Oh, okay.
That was the problem.
Okay.
Okay. we start. So we basically carried on.
This is the jam session that you mentioned earlier. That
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. So because on our fourth album, Listen, we worked with Inflow, who's like a younger, probably more experimental producer, but also someone that is, you know, really the way that we did the album was by using breaks, loops, you know, in the computer a lot. And so we didn't really work as a band with him, and I think basically what we did was we carried on that trajectory with the new album. When we got in the studio, the idea was to write the songs in the studio, and that was the concept, that we would write as we went along. So in itself, I think quite tricky thing to do. It worked on Listen, and I was writing the lyrics as we were doing it, but on this one, with the band there and everything I saw, it just didn't click. And some of the music's great. I mean, it's amazing. It's very like soundscape, quite plush recordings. Right. But it just didn't really feel like the Kooks. And so I think that's where we went full circle. We did half an album with a few songs there, but basically just like vibes that we liked, but we just went, you know, it's not really the band. So let's go back and think, like, what are we? And so like Let's Go Sunshine was, in a cool way, it was kind of like just be about, like, we started from square one and went, let's do a Kooks album, essentially. The best Kooks album yet.
Did you find an answer to that question, who are we?
No one ever does.
Because it's quite a vague thing, but especially you have a back catalog and you have to go, and especially if we think about it, last year you did the Best So Far tour, and so was that a moment of reflection and kind of thinking about who you were as a band?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's there's a journey in that whole thing, but I don't know. I just think it gave us a bit of time. I think it's more that I think we did the best of them. We just had a bit of time to think, and yes, of course, we reflected because we had like the old songs were playing and stuff. I think we just realised we wanted to be quite ourselves and individual, and I think that there's a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of pressure of this kind of homogeny of music, and I think that everything sounds the fucking same, and it's so boring. I think that when you have this kind of culture of like, let's like have the same 10 songwriters write every hit, it's really key now more than ever to be really individual, and I think that we are an individual band, and we sound like us. We're a guitar band. We are all about chemistry and emotion, and I think it was really important to do that. And I think that's what we did. I really do. And yeah, so like rather than going down the let's use, like I say, we would use more collaging, using synths and loads, like huge banks of backing vocals and soundscape stuff and drum loops. We went, well, let's make a band record, and that's what we are. To me, we're the custodians of like British band music, and that's what we should be. And I think that's where we landed, and it suits us, and it felt great trying to do that, or just not trying.
And you mentioned being custodians of British band music.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it's interesting because I also read a quote where you said when you started writing this album, or when you thought about this album, you wanted to have your own Rubber Soul or your own Definitely Maybe. So that quintessential British music, do you think that's in a way gone a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. But it's all gone. I mean, I think there's, don't get me wrong, I think there is great music, but I just think that you've got to reinvent these things. I mean, you can't just be like, okay, I want to do Rubber Soul, but it's got to be modern. But I think that people aren't creative enough, and I think that we wanted to be doing something. We wanted to be doing something where we're fresh and doing what we want to do, and we're 2018, but we're also keeping the tradition of like actually crafting the songs, and like I say, things like chemistry are really important. Playing in a room together, that's really important, and I think that it's easy to say, but yeah, I mean, there's very few people out there doing it, man, and I think that when you listen to the radio and every song does sound the same, it just does. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's the same producers. And they're not even producers, they're DJs. They're fucking DJs, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like, cool, yeah, I mean, they do great stuff, but it's like, why does everything have to be that? I think you're going to see a big change in that, and I hope we're a small part of that. I'm not saying everyone's got to pick up guitars at all. I'm not saying that. It might not be guitars, but there are, there's great bands, there's like, 1975 doing a fucking great thing, you know what I mean? You got like Catfish and the Bottlemen doing a great thing, and there are great bands, okay? But, there's not enough, and there's not enough, probably sub-pop, and we're, I think of us as, we make big tunes, hopefully, and but there's probably more room for that, and I think that British music was built on that, of going against the grain, and I think it's time for an album like what we're bringing out, which is basically like like I say, we're unashamedly going like, here, this is a British rock and roll band doing their thing, and we're not trying to like give you, Calvin Harris's next single. We're not trying to do that.